Functions can be used within formulas to perform a variety of tasks. There are many functions supplied with Excel. In this lesson, we will discuss ways to find and use functions in Excel 2010, using the sum function as an example. Other lessons will introduce commonly used functions. First, I'll set up some numbers to sum together. We can add these numbers using the addition operator, which is the plus symbol. That works. An alternative is to use the sum function. I will include the sum function using the most manual technique now. This drop-down can be used to filter the list. When the drop-down is set to all the functions are listed, and you can see that it's a long list. The sum function is included in the math and trig category, as you might guess. We can use the Tab key to bring up the next field, rather than clicking to it. This is the same result as we found using the addition operator, so that looks okay. Let's try a faster way. And faster still. There is no record of the way in which a function, or indeed any part of a formula, is entered. The formula in cell H15, which resulted from our use of the Insert Function dialog box, contains an identical set of characters as the formula we typed into cell H16, so they return the same result. A function must be written as the function name, then a left round bracket, followed by any arguments, separated by commas if there are more than one, and a right bracket. Arguments are the inputs to the function. These can include values entered directly, which are also known as constants, cell references, range references, arrays, which will be covered another time, and formulas. Some functions do not require any arguments. For example, the rand function returns a random number between 0 and 1. A formula with the rand function looks like this. When you use the rand function in your instance of Excel, you should get a different result. That is what the function is designed to do. The formula in cell H16 has one argument, which is the range H1 to H10. The formula in cell H12 has 10 arguments, which are all cell references. Here is an example that uses a mix of different argument types. The obvious questions now are, how do I find the right function, and how do I use any particular function? The first question is perhaps not ideal, because it implies there is a single correct answer, when in fact there are often several ways to achieve the result that you are looking to find, and occasionally there may be no suitable functions supplied with Excel. Once you have some experience with Excel, for any given formula you need to construct, you will probably already know which function you want to use. That's because we tend to use the same functions over and over again. There are a number of ways that we can find a new function. We can use the Insert Function dialog box, which we can access by clicking either of these buttons. Notice that the buttons are available when Excel is in ready mode, or if we are in enter or edit mode and working with a formula, or if we are in enter or edit mode and the cell is empty, but unavailable if we are in enter or edit mode with an entry that is not a formula. That's because functions don't work as part of entries that are not formulas. Excel is helping us avoid that mistake. When we push the Insert Function button, Excel includes the equal sign for us if it was not already there. We can search for a function using this field. If we were looking for the sum function, but couldn't remember the name, we would probably know that we are trying to add things together, so we could try searching add. That search came back with 6 results, and the names are listed in this box. If there were too many function names to fit in this box, we could access the others with this scroll bar. The function names are fairly intuitive and memorable. This will become more obvious once we have gone through some commonly used functions and as you continue to use Excel. We might see these names and recognize that sum is probably the one that we are looking for, and start with that. Otherwise, we might review the description for each one. Currently dsum is selected, and here's the description. It doesn't sound right. It looks more complicated than what we want. Don't worry if you have no idea what dsum might stand for, or what a database is. Excel includes a lot of functions, and many of those are for specialist applications like statistics, engineering, and finance. Regardless of how good you become with Excel, the description of a function that's outside your area of expertise is likely to seem confusing. So, if you find a description that you don't understand, and especially if it contains big words that don't sound promising, it might be best to just move on. You could miss a solution this way, but there are other ways to find functions, and you can always come back for a more thorough look. SumIfs looks promising, but it mentions conditions or criteria, and we aren't looking for conditions or criteria. We'll put it aside for now, and maybe pick it up again if we have trouble finding something simpler. Pretend we didn't already know that sum is what we were looking for. The description sounds pretty relevant, but notice that it doesn't quite match the way we used it in cell H20. The description says that sum adds all the numbers in a range of cells, and in H20, one of the arguments is 1 million, a constant or number typed in. That's okay. The descriptions are quick and imprecise, so if a function sounds fairly close, then it's probably worth considering. In cases where you aren't sure whether a function is suitable, you can read more, or try it and see what happens. There is an article like this for each function that comes with Excel. When you have an internet connection, this button will allow you to choose between online help and offline help. The first option is online help, the second option is offline help, and the third button is a link to a help article explaining the first two options. I normally suggest that this be set to online help to access more content. It will automatically use the offline help whenever you are not connected to the internet. If the online help is slow to load, which does happen if you have a slow or unreliable internet connection, or if you think the information is likely to be in offline help and you don't want the online help to clutter your search results, you can easily switch to offline help. We won't read the whole article now, but of course you can, anytime, in your instance of Excel. Syntax is the rules around how the function must be written for Excel to interpret it correctly. We have already discussed syntax generally, when we were talking about the function name, brackets, arguments, and commas. The syntax section in this article is more specific for the sum function. The square brackets around arguments 2 to 255 are there to indicate that these arguments are optional. They are also noted as optional in the text. The function will work whether optional arguments are used or not. This looks familiar. Let's enter a range, a cell reference, a constant, a formula. Notice that we don't start the formula with an equal sign here. And some other functions. That covers the most detailed help available within Excel. We can also search online for help. There are many websites, forums, and blog posts that provide useful information on Excel. It is often easy to find a solution this way. Here, the first result names a function, and we haven't even clicked on the page. Sometimes searching can be more difficult. You might try a list of more targeted terms, which could make it easier for a computer to find a match. Alternatively, a more conversational line might be similar to a blog heading or a question on a forum. The functions available in Excel can change with new releases. Generally, there are additional functions in later versions, so sometimes it helps to add the version of Excel that you are working with. With the vast amount of information available, those techniques will probably satisfy most users' requirements until they become quite experienced. If you still can't find a solution, it may be worthwhile posting a question on one of the forums. When there are no suitable functions, or you aren't happy with the function supplied by Excel, you will need to either take another approach or reconsider your goals. One alternative approach is to create your own user-defined function in VBA, which we will go through in another lesson. If we already know which function we are going to use, we can simply open the Insert Function dialog box and select our function. Some information is presented here. This is the same summary as we saw in the previous screen. This is a brief description of what the currently selected argument should contain. The sum function will give the same result regardless of the order we put the arguments in, so the descriptions are the same for each argument. We can also insert functions using these buttons. They are like the categories in the Insert Function dialog box. Finally, we can just type the function into the formula. Notice, even as we do this, a drop-down appears with a list of functions that we may be typing. As we type more letters, the list becomes more specific. The first function name in the list is selected, and the familiar description of that function is shown to the right. We can select other functions in the list with the arrow keys or the mouse. If we include the selected function with the tab key or by double-clicking, the function name will autocomplete, including the left round bracket. Once a function name and left bracket are included, another context menu appears. This shows the function name and syntax. The currently selected argument is shown in bold. We can click another argument's name in the context menu to select it in the formula. If you click on the function name in the menu, the help article will be shown. When entering functions, we can use point mode to include cell or range references. While using the mouse, we can hold down a Control key to include multiple cell or range references as separate arguments. I mentioned earlier that there are different ways of getting things done. All those menus, drop-downs, links, and descriptions are tools designed to make it easier for you to find and use functions. You can use all, some, or none of them, whenever you like. If you're watching this on YouTube, my channel includes videos that introduce commonly used functions. The excelfinancialmodeling.com website has more free resources. All the links are in the description. Thanks for watching.